Hello there, Internet. Today I wanted to talk about the idea of normal. That there's some normal human experience out there, and that if you're struggling in some way or if you're finding life challenging, that you're having some sort of not normal, abnormal experience. Um, Seems to be a rather persistent sort of thing. I'm not set up correctly. Get that taken care of. So, a few years back, I was talking to a friend of mine, and she was having some life difficulties, as human beings do. Um, and she was asking me about it because, like, hey, you seem to be having a pleasant life experience. I want to be having a pleasant life experience. What are you doing? So I was letting her know this. These are the steps that I took in my life to transition from, like, this really sucks to, man, this is awesome. Um, and this was a conversation we had over the course of a couple of weeks, right? Back and forth, back and forth. And what she came to was, it sounds to me like you're trying to get me to address all of my problems in life. But I don't want to do that because that's going to be a lot of work. I just want to have normal people problems. Um, and I wasn't able to help with that because I don't know how to do that. And I don't really know what normal people problems are. And so, what I said to her was, as far as I can tell, you get the set of problems that you get in life. And you either address them or you don't. And those are the only options that are on the table. You don't get to have somebody else's problems. And probably if you had somebody else's problems, you wouldn't want them because you don't actually know what other people's problems are like because you're not living inside of their head. And they're probably for them every bit as challenging as your problems are for you. So, but the idea was that there are normal problems and therefore presumably normal solutions, that these are going to be easy to handle. And I don't think that that's accurate. Because for me, looking out on the world, interacting with my fellow human beings, it seems to me that there aren't normal human beings. There are all of these different flavors of human beings. Some human beings happen to come in a flavor that is a little bit better adjusted to the sort of crazy derived world that we live in. And when I say that, I mean, we are very, very far now from the ancestral condition in which our species evolved. And our species has this sort of range of variations that are well suited to those ancestral conditions, and some of the completely normal human variations are not going to end up being, there's normal. Some of the, that's difficult to say. Some of the natural variation in the human species, some portion of it is not going to be well suited to this artificial condition that we have created with our technological civilization. And so there are some people who, just by chance, roll of the dice, they ended up with a way of perceiving the world that is better suited to the conditions that we find ourselves in. And if you're one of those people, awesome, rad. I have nothing but happiness for you. Not my experience of the world, and I think not the experience of a lot of people, but those people who are challenged by the conditions of modernity, I don't think that that necessarily means that there's something wrong with them or they're abnormal. It simply means that they're part of the subset of perfectly natural human variation that isn't suited to the direction that modernity has taken human life. So here's a metaphor that I used to think about that. And this is going back to some stuff that I read a while ago, so the technical details might not be super great. But here's my understanding of a thing from the natural world that it helps me think about this. Amongst the New World monkeys, there are variations in the range of colors that individual monkeys are able to see. We have 3 different types of color sensors inside of our eyes, and they're sensitive to red and blue and green. I think that's great. Yeah. In some species, some individuals have a similar situation, so they have trichromatic vision. And some individuals have only 2 different sensors, which is a thing that happens in humans. We call it color blindness. And that is a stable configuration within these troops of monkeys. So in any given troop, there will be some monkeys that are seen with 3 different sensors and some seeing with 2. And the combination of 2 that they get, do they get red and blue, or do they get green and blue, or so on, can be varied. And a hypothesis that I saw to explain the situation, why that is stable, is that in the environments where they live, having members of your group seeing the environment differently means that as a group, somebody will see whatever camouflage pattern a predator is using to try to come and attack the group. Somebody will see, the type of fruit that for a trichromatic viewer would blend into the green of the background. It'll stand out strongly to somebody who's a dichromatic viewer and thus perceives contrasts between different colors very differently. And that's something that humans have used on occasion. My understanding is that in World War II, for example, bombing crews would occasionally include somebody who was colorblind because certain camouflage patterns used to disguise potential targets stand out really brightly to people who are colorblind, whereas they completely fool people who have trichromatic vision. So here we have these monkeys, and they have this sort of distributed competence, where if everybody had trichromatic vision, then there would be resources that would be missed, and then there would be predators that would be missed. So the group overall is better off if the individual monkeys don't all have the same experience. And my suspicion is that a fair amount of the variety of human experience comes down to that in our ancestral state, that we lived in troops that cruised around, and that if our species has a non-uniform way of experiencing the world, then somebody in your troop would probably be tuned in to whatever it is that could be a threat or could be a resource that could be exploited. And then as we move into settled lifestyles, we're not hunter-gatherers, we're not living in troops, we're settled agriculturalists living in large-scale societies. A lot of that variation no longer serves the same valuable purpose because we live in situations that are more uniform, right? And we live in a crazy world, right? Where, a large subset of our population gets into a box every day to go to another box where they sit and stare at a lit up screen for 8 hours so they can get into a box and go back to another box where they can stare at a lit up screen for some number of hours and then go to sleep and start it all over again. And then another subset of our population gets in the box to go to a box where they give things to people who have abandoned all pretense of being decent at the door and just generally endure the abuse of the rest of their society for 8 hours and then go home to stare at a screen and go to sleep to start it all over again. And that's, well, there's a lot to say about that, but it's very far removed from the conditions within which our species evolved and the conditions within which the normal, natural varieties of the human experience came to be. So there's going to be some tension there. There's going to be some conflict there because some flavors of human are just better at living in this crazy world than others, and those of us who happen to not be the flavors that are adapted to this insane situation are going to struggle a bit. That's okay. We can find tools to allow us to make peace with the situation, the circumstances of our lives, and live fulfilled lives and be happy human beings while embracing the diversity of the experiences that we bring to the table. Don't have anything more to say on that. Yeah, it's just combating the idea that if you are struggling, that's because there's something wrong with you. Because there isn't, is the short answer to that. There's a lot wrong with the world. There's a lot wrong with the way that we have organized our societies and the lives that we expect people to lead. And if you're having difficulty squaring up to that, I would say that that's a sign of a well-adjusted state of mind in a broader sense of things. So just looking at, maybe I shouldn't accept what I've been told about what I should do with my life. Maybe I should actually look to what is a fulfilling life experience for me and start realizing that and finding how I can have that within the framework of the society that I live in. I think that's a healthier attitude, right? To accept I am who I am. I have the experience that I have. It's different from some other people, and that causes me to be comfortable with different situations. and uncomfortable with some situations where other people might be comfortable. And that's 100% okay. Now, taking that in, accepting it, and understanding it, what does it look like to go forward in a happy direction for my life? So that's it. Normalcy, normal. It's not a helpful construct. So, give it up. Embrace your flavor. That's all.